Hello and welcome back to another episode of All in a Day of Sports. We are back this time with better sound quality. I'm your host, maybe a little bit sicker, but still Salman nonetheless. This last sports week wasn't probably as busy as the past few weeks were, but it was still an important week in the world of sports. So I just want to give you guys a quick reminder that we are still on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, and Instagram. So make sure you drop a follow or subscribe wherever those channels are, and make sure you listen there and share with your friends and family if you enjoy the podcast. And let's get into this episode. Kicking it off with a recap of what happened this past week, we will start with none other but, you guessed it, the World Cup. However, this was the second to last week of the World Cup, so only one more week left in this tournament, which we'll talk about later when I tell you what to watch. But I do want to let you guys know what happened because it was probably one of the most important weeks so far of the World Cup. Maybe not the most exciting, but it was a very big week, and the games were pretty entertaining. So, kicking it off with Monday, on Monday, Spain beat Portugal 1-0. It happened on a late goal from Mikel Merino, the Arsenal man, and you might want to remember that name for later. Also on Monday, the U.S. lost to Belgium 4-1. Malik Tillman scored another free kick goal to tie it for the U.S. 1-1, and then they kind of just lost it from there. Many mistakes from the defense. They just played pretty terribly, and the Belgian goals, they were just capitalizing off the American mistakes. On Tuesday, Egypt lost to Argentina in a heartbreaker. Egypt was up 2-0 with 10 minutes left, 15 maybe if you include stoppage time, and they gave up 3 goals in 15 minutes and proceeded to lose 3-2. Also on Tuesday, Switzerland beat Colombia in a bit of an upset on penalties. The score was 0-0 after the end of regular time and then extra time, and so the game went into penalties, and despite both teams missing, Switzerland missed less. Wednesday, we had a break from the World Cup, if you remember, but on Thursday, we began the quarterfinals. And in the quarterfinals, France beat Morocco 2-0 in the first game of that round. That was probably the worst game Morocco has played in a long time, and the French team capitalized on it. The only person that seemed to have shown up for Morocco was their goalie, Yassine Bono, who made save time after time again, even saving a penalty from Mbappe, but eventually Mbappe hit one of the most beautiful goals of this World Cup to give France the lead, and Dembele finished them off. On Friday, Spain beat Belgium 2-1, and remember when I told you to remember Mikel Merino? Well, he scored yet another late game winner for Spain. That was the first goal Spain had conceded the whole tournament, but they still managed to pull out with the win to set up their semifinal against France. And on Saturday, our last day of the World Cup that had 2 games in the same day. The first game featured England and Norway, in which England ended up winning 2-1 against our cultural favorites, Norway, with their rowing and whatnot. And Jude Bellingham ended up scoring a brace, which is 2 goals to give them the win 2-1, despite Norway scoring the first goal. That game did go into extra time, however, as Norway gave them a good fight. And also on Saturday, Messi and Argentina played Switzerland. That game also went into extra time, but Switzerland got a red card during regular time. They were just playing on the defensive end, and they lost 3-1 at the end of extra time. So that was all that happened in the World Cup this past week. Definitely less than the past few weeks where we had tens upon games, and this was not as many. Moving on to the NBA, DeMar DeRozan recently got waived by the Kings. The 6-time All-Star has been very good in the past, just didn't have it anymore, and the Kings no longer thought it was worth keeping him on their roster. Also, Donovan Mitchell of the Cavaliers and Victor Wembanyama of the Spurs both got extended. I believe Mitchell was 4 years and Wembanyama was 5 years for decent sums of money. Both of them are considered to be the future of their teams. So Good moves if you look at it from that perspective. In the NFL, the Seattle Seahawks sold their team for $9.6 billion, which is a new NFL record. This is actually the same ownership group that has a partial stake in the 49ers, which are division rivals, so that is kind of interesting. But something that was really cool about this sale is that majority of the money will actually end up going to charity because of the previous owner, Allen's decision. And in other news in sports, Noskova, the Czech player, won the women's Wimbledon in 3 sets. And in men's Wimbledon, Sinner ended up winning the championship on Sunday against Alexander Zverev after Sinner in the semifinals beat Djokovic in straight sets. The first 2 sets of this championship went to tie breaks, but Zverev won the first, and then Sinner won the next 3. Zverev is the reigning French Open championship, which was just a month or less ago, and Sinner is the reigning Wimbledon champion, not just from this year, but from the year before. Alcaraz was not in this tournament, so it was definitely an easier path, I would say, for Sinner, but definitely not the easiest that he has ever done. Also, Haran Rouge shot 60 strokes in the LPGA. That is the lowest total in an LPGA major, and that is just one above the lowest in LPGA history of 59. So, that was all the news that you missed in this past sports week. Now, let's move on to what you need to watch. So, what should you watch in this upcoming week of sports? Well, this is, as I said, the final week of the World Cup. It is very sad. We went from 104 games and now we have 4 left. So, let me tell you about those 4 games. On Tuesday, the first semifinal contains the match that we all had circled on our brackets, most of us at least, which is France versus Spain at 3 p.m. Eastern on Fox. This is obviously a matchup between, in my opinion, the 2 biggest heavyweights in the sports, though the FIFA rankings will tell you that Argentina is number 1. It seems as though I thought that Spain's strength this World Cup would be their offense, but it really has been their defense, with only 1 conceded goal, which is obviously less than France, whose offense seems to be clicking a bit better than Spain's. And I think a reason for this could be because both Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams, strong wingers and fast wingers for Spain, were injured going into this tournament. And though Lamine looked like he was ready, Nico Williams has not. And so I think it's just throwing in these different variations with these players. It just didn't necessarily work out the best for them, though they are in the semifinals. Just offensively, not the same firepower you would expect. And on Wednesday, England plays Argentina at 3 p.m. Eastern on Fox. That is the other semifinal matchup. It'll be interesting to see. It feels like Argentina wasn't as strong in the knockouts as they were in the group stage, but they're a team that keeps finding ways to win, and so we'll see if they can do that against Jude Bellingham, Harry Kane, and this English squad. And I do want to give you guys just a mini prediction, not a new segment, but I feel like I owe it to you guys. I'm going to stick with my original bracket I had for the knockouts and give you France and Argentina as my winners, and then in the 3rd place game at 5 p.m. Eastern on Fox, and my predictions will tell you that that should be England versus Spain. I will take Spain on that one, though those are both very deep teams, and it's a 3rd place game, so they won't necessarily be trying. But that game is at 5 p.m. Eastern on Fox on Saturday, and on Sunday, our last game of the World Cup until another 4 years, where it will be in Portugal, Spain, and Morocco. It is at 3 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sunday. And for me, between France and Argentina, who as I have going there, not necessarily guaranteed, I will take France in a rematch of last year's final. So, that is it. That is the last time I will tell you to watch a World Cup game until 4 years. So enjoy that. I'm a little sad the tournament will be over, but I'll definitely let you guys know what happened over this past week, this coming week, next week, in our next episode. Moving on to the MLB, the Home Run Derby is on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern on Netflix. So you do have to pay to watch the Home Run Derby. It is reverting back to the old format, not that we've seen in recent years where it's timed. They will have a certain number of swings and they have to hit the most home runs out of those swings. The contestants in this upcoming Home Run Derby will be Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Junior Caminero, Munetaka Murakami, Jordan Walker, Jack Caglianone, and Wilson Contreras, and then also featuring Ben Rice from the New York Yankees. That's just a fun event. Doesn't have much stakes, but I will take my guy Schwarber to win that one. And on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern on Fox, I feel like I am a walking advertisement in Fox for this podcast because they just host so many sports events. That is the MLB All-Star Game, obviously between the National League and the American League. Something that just came in this week is that Ohtani will not be playing in the All-Star game as he suffered an injury recent. Nothing major, but I don't think they want to risk it in the All-Star game. And that's all I really have for you guys to watch in terms of live sports in this upcoming week. Kind of a slow week that's coming up, but important week because it is the biggest tournament in the world's final game. And so, moving on to our last and final segment, my hot take. And so, to wrap up this week's episode, I'm going to give you guys a bit of a hot take. And I was sitting around writing the script for this episode, and I was wondering what should I do for this final segment? And it dawned upon me with the summer league kicking off, I should do something with the NBA. So, my hot take for this upcoming NBA season, though it feels like it just ended with our Knicks as our new NBA champions, my hot take is that the Washington Wizards will make it to at least the Eastern Conference Finals. And why should the worst team in the NBA, why you must be asking, why will this happen? Well, let me start with the lineup. This is a lineup that is guaranteed to have next year, though not necessarily the most healthy lineup. It should have Trae Young, Anthony Davis, if he doesn't get traded, which executives are pointing towards happening, him not getting traded, AJ DeBansa, Sarr, DeAndre Ayton, Chris Middleton, and Koulibaly. And those aren't necessarily all All-Stars, and many people consider Trae Young to be among the most overrated players in the league, and Anthony Davis the most injury-prone. It is an extremely talented roster. And I think that the Wizards could be good enough at least for a play-in spot. And I think once you're into the playoffs, anything can happen. I don't think they'll be in a play-in. I think they'll be higher, but I think it's just such a talented roster. If it's not this year or the year after, though I am predicting this year, I don't know when it will be for the Wizards. And it's just such a talented squad. But that's not the only reason. Also, their head coach, Keefe, was able to develop players such as Durant, Westbrook, and Harden. So why shouldn't he be able to develop a player like AJ DeBansa? And so if AJ DeBansa can click and Trae Young can go back to his best self and Anthony Davis can stay off the injured list, that already and within itself is a formidable big three that I think is better than half the league, let alone supporting players such as Ayton and Middleton. Also, this team is said, though it's probably unlikely, just as likely as many other teams, is rumored to have a stake in LeBron James. So this team with a piece of LeBron James, it almost feels too perfect for them. I could be falling into a trap of too much hype here, but I really do think that this Wizards team could be good, and this would be a very insane jump, almost similar to the Wizards, though I would not compare AJ DeBansa to Victor Wembanyama, but Spurs in the sense of the type of jump that I think they will have. And like I said earlier, I think if you can make it into the playoffs, anything can happen. Our previous NBA champions, first of all, the NBA championship, like the finals series this year, didn't have a number one seed, and our champion ended up being the 3 seed of the Knicks. Also, it was a 3 versus 4 seed in the Eastern Conference semifinals, so it wasn't even a 2 or a 1 seed. And the only team that gave the Knicks real trouble this past playoffs, the Atlanta Hawks, who were the number 6 seed. So I think that they can do something. They can finish off what the Hornets did and just have a talented roster better than that, make it into the playoffs, and put some competition against some big teams. So that is my hot take. You guys can decide the level of burning it is. Could be mild, could be medium, maybe a little bit of lemon pepper. But anyways, that is my take. Just a reminder, we are on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram. So just make sure to follow there. I know I said it, but I will say it again and continue to listen. Enjoy this week of sports, the final week of the World Cup. I'm gonna be sad when it's over, but I will see you all next week. Thank you.